somewhere?
I'm gonna start that up.
Yes,
Right.
but I will be I will be sharing my screen.
Perfect.
Actually, let me work on Michelle. Co-hosting in a second here. Okay. Are a lot of you having trouble logging on? Why is that? It's right on the agenda. Okay, we're at 7:05. I guess people will trickle in as they come in. But let's go ahead and start introductions. Time is valuable, and I know people want to get to their families and dinner. So I'll start off by saying welcome. We are recording, and I just want to welcome everybody to the February monthly POPs meeting, and thank you all for attending. Today we have some special guests and some serious topics to discuss with regards to things that are happening in the city and also in the Sunset in particular. So I'd like to just start off with doing an introduction. I will introduce myself and call out the next person, and if that person can just call out another person on the screen. Okay. My name is Albert Chow. I am the president of People of Parkside Sunset, and I'm also the owner of Great Wall Hardware on Cherville Street. And I'll go to Margaret Graff.
Hi, I'm Margaret Graff. I have a nonprofit here in District 4 called Senior Power. And Grace, you're up.
Okay. I'm Grace, and I'm Vice President number 2 of POPs when I'm here. So hi.
Okay, I'll call City Attorney David Chiu.
Hey guys, please call me David, and I'll introduce myself in a second when I chat, but I really appreciate having an opportunity to meet everyone virtually, although I hope to see all you in the Sunset sometime soon in person.
Michelle Kong.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle. I am the city attorney's community engagement officer. I'm very happy to see you all today, and I look forward to working with you all more intimately in the future.
Captain Eric Vintero.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Vintero. I'm the new captain at Cherville Station. This is my very first week, so I'm just excited to be here, looking forward to meeting everyone and working with everyone to partner and collaborate to make the Cherville district as safe as it can possibly be. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope all is well with Captain Rainsford.
Yes, everything is very well with him. He's going to be retiring in about 1 month.
Oh, okay. Congratulations to him.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Josephine.
Oh, hi, I'm Josephine. I've been involved in POPs. Oh, God, I just came back from a PAX meeting and now coming to POPs. So since 2016, maybe 17. So, and be in the e-board since 2019. So thank you guys for having me. It's been such a pleasure. And I am a member of the Chinese community. Everything about Chinese is about, I get into it, including education and housing and community activism. So it's great that POPs is able to reach out to a lot of Chinese speaking members in District 4 and bring everyone together. I would also wanted to bring you in attention to the redistricting that's happening. The deadline is April 15, so there will be 2 rounds of discussion on District 4 Board of Supervisor borders. So it's important for POPs to get involved in it. I would call on Eileen.
Hello, I'm Eileen Boken. I'm the president of SPEAK, Sunset Parkside Education Action Committee. I'm also the state and federal legislative liaison for the Coalition for San Francisco Neighborhoods. And Josephine and I have been working on redistricting, particularly for District 4. And hopefully POPs will give us some time in March to do a short presentation because like Josephine said, the deadline for not just for the community, but for the redistricting task force to submit its final maps to the Board of Supervisors is April 15th. So this is a time-sensitive issue, and thank you. And who else? I'm not sure who to turn it over with. To.
It's okay. I'll call on Peter Monks. Peter, unmute, please.
Yes, I'm Peter Monks from the Far Out Gallery at Caravan 40th.
All right. Barry Hermanson.
Hey, Barry Hermanson. I'm a resident of the Parkside neighborhood and a former business owner.
Britt
Oh,
Stratton.
and
Sorry?
who hasn't done this yet? Britt?
Hi, I'm Britt Stratman. I'm a deputy city attorney with the city attorney's office, and I'm the code enforcement city attorney that's assigned to the Taraval district. And I had the pleasure of talking to Captain Vintero yesterday about some of our problem properties and look forward to keeping your district safe.
Great. Jeff Wong, my old pal.
Hey. Well, thank you, Albert and Jessica, for inviting me to this meeting. David, good to see you again. I supported you when you ran for mayor many years ago, and I have a feeling that might be in the future for you, oh man. So good to be here. I'm a financial advisor, and I live in the Sunset Parkside area.
All right, Howard Chin.
Hi, I'm Howard Chin. I'm the assistant administrator for POPS.
Okay, Doug Marsky.
How's it going? I'm Doug Marsky, owner of Underdogs 2 and Underdogs Trace.
Paula Katz.
I'm Paula Katz. I'm on the executive board. I started with Save Our El Taravel Stops. That's how I got involved with POPs.
And Jessica Ho.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, but I'm also on the board of POPs. Good to see you, City Attorney David Chiu, and everyone here, and look forward to hearing for tonight's meeting. Who else has not been called? Taylor Emerson?
Yes. Taylor Emerson.
Hi, everyone. I am, my video will not go back on, but I'm Taylor Emerson. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Recreation and Parks Department about the happenings on JFK. Thanks. I look forward to my item later.
And lastly, I think it'll be Shava Cronenberg.
Sorry, is my video working?
No.
Oh, use video. It says use video anyway. Let's find out. Well, I'll probably get it working before our piece, but I'm co-presenting with Taylor on the Golden Gate Park project later on the agenda. But thank you for having me.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for everybody attending today and all the presentations that you will be doing. So without further ado, I would like to introduce City Attorney David Chiu, formerly Supervisor David Chiu, formerly State Assembly Member David Chiu, former candidate for Mayor David Chiu. And so anyway, in his present hat, I would like to introduce him as City Attorney. And thank you. There you go.
Thank you, Albert. Let me introduce myself in a different way, which is please call me David. I'm called oftentimes, many, many things, and just prefer the name my parents gave me, but appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to say hello. I'll also maybe just introduce myself in a couple of other ways, which is years and years ago, I got my start in community activism, helping to run a neighborhood association. So I know exactly how much all of you volunteers are being paid to do the work you're doing, which is absolutely nothing. And I appreciate the labor of love and how you are doing what you do to ensure that you have one of the best neighborhoods in the city. I'll also mention in a past life, because many of you run small businesses, I ran a small business for about a decade before I first ran for office and served on our city small business commission. So that's an area that I've always been passionate about and happy to chat more about. But probably most relevant to this, as was mentioned, I did serve on the Board of Supervisors years ago and worked very closely with my colleagues, then Supervisor Carmen Chiu and Katie Tang. I then, for the last 7 years, represented the east side of San Francisco, which is basically the eastern 2/3 of the city, working with your state assembly member, Phil Ting, and Senator Wiener. Phil, as you know, represents the west side, scooping down into San Mateo. But as I've mentioned before, because I haven't held citywide office, as I've assumed this new post as city attorney, it's been really important for me to get to know leaders around the city, particularly on the west side. So appreciate being connected with y'all and having a chance to come and chat. I'll also just say by way of background, as a lawyer, years ago, I worked as an assistant district attorney and as a civil rights attorney. And I'm just honored to have the opportunity to help manage what I would suggest is the best public law office in the country. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But what I'll do for the next 7 minutes is fly through a little presentation, in part because I have found that people have an awful lot of confusion about what the city attorney's office does. So I'm going to ask Michelle to go to the first slide. So talk very briefly about who we are, what we do, and what we can do, how our office can interface with your organization in the sunset. Next slide. So the city attorney established under the San Francisco Charter. And I think one of the most important things for me to mention up front is we practice civil law, not criminal law. There are a lot of folks in the city who assume I'm the district attorney. And while in a past life, I was an assistant district attorney, the DA at this moment is Chesa Boudin. He enforces the law when individuals get arrested by the San Francisco Police Department and moves forward prosecutions. We work in basically every other area of law, but obviously the whole body of civil law. And I should mention that we represent the city and county of San Francisco. We don't represent individual members of the public, although our lawsuits are often standing up for San Franciscans. We do basically three things. We bring lawsuits, that's known as affirmative litigation. We defend the city against thousands of lawsuits. So maybe I'll just give an example. We bring affirmative litigation like trying to bring about marriage equality. We defend the city in lawsuits. So for example, when Donald Trump sued San Francisco for being a sanctuary city, it was our attorneys that defended that. And then we provide legal advice to a lot of different folks, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I should also mention we're an independent office. So because of how we're set up under the Constitution, I am not the lawyer to the mayor or to the Board of Supervisors, although we are their lawyer, but I am not accountable to them in the way that I'm accountable, frankly, to all of you and the voters of San Francisco. I am one of about 11 elected city attorneys in, or I'm hoping soon to be elected city attorney. I was appointed a couple months ago, and my first election is in June. But in the state of California, we have 11 elected city attorneys. Next slide. So we have about 300 legal professionals, and as I mentioned before, we have over 100 clients. And that includes every city department, board, and commission, as we like to say, from the airport to the zoo. So I'm not going to list all of the different agencies, you know all the acronyms, but we have lawyers that work closely with all of these departments to assist them with their legal issues. And we also provide legal advice and counsel to most of the elected officials in the city. Next slide. So on the advice side, a few things I'll mention is we provide consistent advice to everyone. So if, say, competing parties, departments, elected officials ask us for advice on a topic, we provide the same advice to everyone. We negotiate and approve and draft all contracts as to form. We also approve and draft local legislation. And on many occasions, we'll provide written legal advice. Depending on the circumstance, it'll either be public or it'll be confidential. Next slide. As I mentioned, about 4,000 claims are issued against the city every year, and some of these claims result in lawsuits. So it's everything from, say, a slip and fall on public property to a muni accident, labor disputes, property damages, challenges to different ordinances, etc. We represent the city and county in every proceeding where legal counsel is required, and so that includes administrative hearings all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. In fact, we have lawyers who are appearing in the U.S. Supreme Court in about 2 weeks in a case. So we're pretty busy on that front. And then next slide. We also bring lawsuits, as I mentioned before, generally or often on behalf of the people of California when there's San Franciscans who've been harmed, oftentimes against corporate defendants that are engaged in unlawful, unfair, or fraudulent activity. So we're bringing suits on behalf of consumers, on behalf of workers, on behalf of the climate, and we can sue for restitution, for various court orders, monetary penalties, etc. Next slide. I also mentioned we have investigators who are essentially detectives who show up at the site of, say, a muni bus accident to interview witnesses, gather evidence, perform inspections to make sure the city's legal perspective is protected. We also engage in public integrity investigations. You may have heard in the last year and a half, there have been a number of significant cases involving corruption that led to arrests by the FBI. Much of this came out of work from the city attorney's office. Next slide. Part of what I want to really focus on is our office is engaged in code enforcement work, and that is the use of civil laws to address what are known as public nuisances. Typically, these are nuisances that are attached to a property or an address. Put another way, if there is a person outside your building who's doing something that's inappropriate, you call the cops. If there's a building next to you where there are negative things that are impacting the neighborhood, you may likely want to call us. So we enforce a wide variety of these nuisance laws, and I don't have to go through the list, but suffice it to say, it keeps us very busy. And let me just give a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Next slide. So illegal construction, disrepair, and neglect. Michelle, next slide. Abandoned properties, I don't need to read. You can get a sense of the type of work we do. Next slide. If there are unauthorized short-term rentals, if there is fraud that's being perpetrated by someone who is supposed to be living in affordable housing, if there's an illegal nightclub, unpermitted car repair shops. Next slide. Liquor store or another type of similar establishment that is creating a nuisance. And then I'll mention here around drugs, our office doesn't enforce the use of drugs, but if there's a house where drugs are being manufactured or a known destination for people to purchase drugs, we can work with the San Francisco Police Department on the civil side to shut it down. Next slide. So the last thing I just want to say and then open it up to questions is the way we work together, and this is partially why I am doing this neighborhood outreach, is if you have complaints about code issues, if you have thoughts about litigation that we should pursue, please call us, specifically around code issues. The hotline is there, but I also want to introduce you to Britt Stratman, who is on this call. I have a deputy city attorney who's assigned to each police district, and Britt is assigned to Terraville. So if there are issues, definitely reach out to her. There's also a whistleblower program through the controller's office, but I'll also mention if there's a crime in progress, a medical emergency, call 911. If there are everyday problems like trash, graffiti, potholes, call 311. But if there's an intensification of issues, as I've just described around a nuisance property that's nearby, you call us. And with that, I think that's the final slide. Michelle, why don't we just open it up to the wide view of the Hollywood squares, and happy to answer any questions.
Josephine.
Yes. Also, thank you, David. And you look a lot more refreshing, not so tired compared to your days at Sacramento. So congratulations.
It's called not putting another 100,000 miles on my car like I did in the last couple of years. I used to drive, as Josephine and others know, 3 or 4 hours a day, so I could go up and get home to try to see my son for an hour. But I don't have to do that anymore.
That's awesome. So I wanted to know how many cases that you're dealing with. What's the case load? Like, it looks like a laundry list of things that you guys are dealing with.
Yeah, I won't lie. It's a lot of cases. So we have about 24 legal teams. So we have, for example, we have a health team, we have an airport team, we have a transportation team. Britt Strotman is on the code enforcement team. We have teams of folks that are reviewing all the initial claims that come in. We have a public integrity team, and each of the teams are involved in a certain amount of work. And as I mentioned before, there are literally thousands of matters that we are addressing at any time. We have a team of lawyers that are advising the mayor and the board of supervisors. So every ordinance that gets debated gets drafted in our office, when there are amendments, it gets written by our office. We provide advice on procedures. So at any commission hearing, the rules of order, how things get voted on, get dictated by our office. So it's a lot. Other questions?
Margaret, Grant?
I have a question for you. You mentioned administrative law was a part of the big pie that you cover here. Does that also include licensure or potential illegal licensure or lack of licensure? Do you get involved in that, or is that strictly referred to Sacramento?
Well, it depends on exactly what you're talking about. But let me say this. So a lot of licenses are governed by the state level. So if you're a doctor, your license is established by Sacramento. As a lawyer, my bar license is set through rules in Sacramento. But that being said, if there are folks who are abusing their license, there might be ways for us to be involved. So it depends on the situation. And then if there are permits or other licensing rules locally, then obviously we may get involved depending on exactly what we're talking about.
I have a question.
Yeah.
David, in several years past, we've had issues with spas and massage parlors in around Taraval Street and the Sunset, even in some homes. And was that something that was handled by the city's attorney's office? And is that currently an active problem these days, as it was several years before?
So it is something that we can be involved in. It's one of these areas that there could be concurrent jurisdiction of the district attorney and the city attorney's office. I certainly would suggest if there are issues, let us know, let Britt know, and we can see if there are civil provisions that could apply. I think the question of whether it's more or less of a problem, honestly, it kind of depends on the neighborhood and what's happening at any time. So when I was the District 3 supervisor representing North Beach and Chinatown and Union Square, it was definitely spiking up, and there was some more enforcement in these areas, and it tamped down. I remember when I was on the Board of Supervisors working with then Supervisor Katie Tang on legislation around massage parlors. So it goes up and down. Britt, I don't know if you have anything more you want to add to that, but if there are issues, please bring them to our attention.
Yeah, please let me know. I don't have any on our radar right now in the Taraval district, but that is something that we do investigate and enforce.
That's good to hear that there hasn't been anything on your radar, because it was, during Supervisor Tang's tenure, we had quite a few issues with that. I guess my last question, and I'll bring it open to anyone else that wants to pose a question, is, gosh, I just forgot my train of thought there. I'm also a general contractor, and every once in a while I run into homes. I saw in your pictures there's like hoarding, and I thought that was interesting because sometimes it's like there's tenants' rights issues, of course, you don't want to throw somebody out, but at the same time they do things to the property that is clearly potential hazards and even a fire hazard to the occupant and a potential, problem for the landlord themselves. And so I'm not always sure what to do about that. I've had people ask me that question.
Yeah, and that's definitely, we included the picture for a reason. There are certainly code violations that stem from hoarding activities. And so again, if there's an issue there, please let Britt know and we can take a look.
And actually today we issued an emergency order to vacate for a home that was basically falling apart. And we only do that once a year. It was that severe in your district. So we are actively, taking care and investigating hoarding and other, building situations. So please let me know and we're happy to look into it.
And I want to take a moment and thank the SFPD. We work closely with them on many of these instances. Every police station has a code enforcement officer who will work concurrently with our deputy city attorneys. We also have our own investigators, so this is how we learn about things. But generally, the work of the code team is often very much complaint based. So if we need to know from everyday San Franciscans what's happening in a neighborhood, on a block, in a building, and we can step in and take a look.
David, I had perhaps my best friend pass away about 1.5 years ago. And we all had inklings that he was a hoarder. And we didn't realize how much until he passed and they found him. And it was, he used to tell me occasionally that, we were both organizers for healthcare, and that, he had some stuff he had to really do. And it was to be able to clean a path from his doorway to a window so the building manager could actually say he walked in and looked out the window. But there was nobody inspecting that apartment. I think we need a better mechanism to try to be dealing with stuff like that. I hope there can be, I would enjoy being part of any conversation about that. I should have called saying, hey, I suspect my best friend is a hoarder, but that's hard to do.
Yep. Well, first of all, Barry, good to see you. Listen, as we know, hoarding is, it's a mental health issue, and
yes.
And certainly, if any of the neighbors on this call, if you're aware of something, let us know so we can help to try to address it. It not only creates a public nuisance, but it's reflective of a challenge that whoever is hoarding is dealing with, and we want to help get people help. So keep us posted.
All right. Any more questions out there? Josephine?
I just want to thank, City Attorney Chiu and your office about issuing an opinion on the non-citizen voting. It really give people an assurance that they can participate in their children's schools, education, and representation of that. So,
sure thing. Well, years ago, actually, 15 years ago, before I was on the Board of Supervisors, I worked on the issue when the ballot measure failed, and then it passed a few years ago when it was led by Gordon Marr's brother, Eric, as he was leaving the Board of Supervisors. So we now are able to allow the 1 in 3 parents who have kids in the system who are not citizens to have a say in who their school board members are. And we just want folks to know that that people have the right to vote in that context. So thank you, and thanks for your leadership on this stuff too.
Any more questions?
Are there any pending lawsuits involving the closure of the Great Highway and JFK, which I happen to support, but most of the members of POPs do not. Most of the people do not.
Yeah, there is a lawsuit that is pending right now. So as you know, some months ago, the Board of Supervisors and the mayor crafted what was viewed as sort of a kind of a great compromise on on travel on the Great Highway. That was put in place, and then it was sued shortly thereafter. Our office, we handle the defense of all lawsuits against the city. So we are defending that suit as we speak. But obviously, happy to continue to get feedback from you and others about that. I know it has been a contentious issue, and part of why I'm happy to spend time with residents in the Sunset and the Richmond is to just understand more about the perspectives of our West Side residents and ways to resolve these issues. But yes, there's ongoing litigation as we speak.
And what's the status of that?
Status is the complaint was filed, I want to say, within the last couple of weeks. So we're in the early stages of the litigation, very early stages.
Thank you.
And I love the panda behind you. I'm very jealous.
When I went to China.
By the way, I want to say, I know a number of you are involved in other organizations like Speak and Senior Power, and more than happy to come and visit and share a little bit about what we're doing, but also really hear from you on what issues you're seeing in your neighborhood. I've spent my fair share of social time in District 4, but now I get to work much more closely with you on these issues. So want to definitely hear from you. And I want to also just take a moment and thank Gordon Marr's office that had helped suggest that Albert and I chat. As I've heard from Supervisor Marr, former Supervisor Tang, Supervisor Carmen Chiu, you guys are one of the best and most well-run organizations on the West Side. So wanted to make sure I got a chance to know you and hear about your issues.
Wow. Humbling words. Okay.
They really, all three of them did say that.
Okay.
It's Albert. Albert's an awesome, inclusive leader.
I've got a good team. All right. Well, City Attorney David Chiu, thank you so much for coming and visiting with us today. Now we all know a little bit more about City Attorney's office and your role. And I think that I've already thought of a couple of things that next time I'll keep in my Rolodex for having to engage with you and your office and your staff.
Absolutely. And no, you can obviously reach out to me, but Britt is doing all the actual hard work of managing code enforcement in your area. Reach out to Michelle if there's additional community engagement. If you guys have events or things that you want me or others to participate in, I'm always happy to have an excuse to come out to the West Side. So just let me know. But until then, I hope everyone stays healthy and safe, and happy Lunar New Year.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, David Chiu. Thank you, Michelle Kwong. Thank you, Britt Stratman. All right.
Hey guys.
Thank you. And now I am going to go down to the second agenda item, which is the Golden Gate Park Access and Safety Program, and that'll be with Chava Cronenberg and Taylor Emerson. Thank you for coming. Speaking of potential litigation, who knows? Closing of JFK, let's see what happens. See how many people agree or disagree with that.
Well, thanks so much for having us. And work is proceeding despite the litigation, and that work includes getting feedback from people on the ground, people who are really affected by the changes, and that's why we're here tonight. I'm going to take you briefly through a presentation and then open it up to Q&A. I'm here with my colleague, Chava Cronenberg, who needs to share screen.
Okay, so Chava or Chava?
Chava.
Chava? I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Tricky one.
Chava, shall I make you co-host?
That would be great.
All right.
I promise not to Zoom bomb people of Parkside.
Okay. You are driving.
Okay, I'm gonna share screen, and you're gonna have to bear with me because as you know, it's like extremely difficult to share screen. Hold on, let me go to slideshow view and see how that works, and you'll tell me. Okay, let's see.
2 years later, we are getting better at this 2 years later, but it's still really hard.
Every program is a different program. I think, am I in business or no? Are you all seeing this?
No, we're just
no.
No.
Sorry.
Rats. screen two. Try screen two. Share.
Something's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Here we
Got
go.
it.
All right. All right. So Taylor, take it away. Thank you all for bearing with me. I hope you all had a sip of tea.
All right, everybody. Well, Closed JFK, which is actually part of the Slow Streets program, is now officially called Golden Gate Park Access and Safety Program, which is much better name because that's really what we're talking about. Access to the park and safety once you're there. Next. I'm going to give you a quick background on how we got to where we are. We'll look at what the original program proposals out there that are being studied, and then we'll zoom through that so we can get to the discussion and your input. You know, before JFK was closed, it was going to be Golden Gate Park's 150th birthday, and we had lots of stuff planned. And we actually did a very extensive traffic study in the park because we wanted to close some roads for the birthday party, which all sounds so silly now. But in that traffic study, we learned what we'd always suspected, which is that most of whoops.
Hava's going crazy.
Hava's, this is not the right slide.
I'm sorry.
And where's the
Give me a second. Sorry.
You guys, you know, I've worked for the city for more than 20 years. I think it's the first time I've ever been before your group, but we have been giving a lot of we've been out there talking to the people. So forgive that baseline start. Okay. We studied the traffic. This is what the park used to look like on most days, and learned that during the weekdays, 75% of the cars going through the park were just cutting through. There was no park purpose or destination. And I was one of those people. Of course, I would always rather take the park than take Lincoln. And so, you know, but it really, you know, knowing that number helped us really understand the public policy choice that this road represents. Next. Hava.
Is it next?
Yes.
Did it not go next?
It did. Now it's on. Now it says Vision Zero. In fact,
okay.
The portion of JFK that's closed now was, you know, was designated as a high injury corridor. There had been so many interactions between bikes and cars, mostly cars that were using as a cut through, and you know, people died in the park. In the 5 years preceding, there were more than 100 injury collisions. Since the closure, there have been 0 collisions on the car-free route of JFK, and that's good news right there, just in and of itself. All right, next. So the project area is the green line through the park. As you can see, there's lots of gray lines, which are the open roads. In fact, about 80% of the roads, 80 to 90% of the roadway and parking in the park is still open and available and fully accessible just the same way. During the weekday, yeah, 83% of regular parking is still provided. Yeah. Okay, next. This is where we are right now. Just a quick look at the schedule. What's missing from here is, you know, when the mayor closed the JFK as a way to create more fun space to play. And then it just got so much attention, positive and negative, that it kind of became a project, right? And so then we had a stakeholder working group and kind of came up with a framework for how this was going to be evaluated. Last summer, we did a lot of collaboration with Rec&Park and MTA, which has been just a wonderful, wonderful aspect of this project, is that city agencies are collaborating in a new way. And now here we are in the fall, winter, you know, just the end of winter, hopefully, you know, doing some public outreach, talking to all kinds of different types of users, the institutions, the disability and senior community, of course, our equity communities, youth and families, neighborhood stakeholders, businesses. And then as we move toward the spring, we're going to be submitting a collaborative proposal to the Board of Supervisors that includes a technical analysis, with summaries of the public outreach, and a recommendation along with mitigations for that recommendation. Thank you. Next.
Okay, so Taylor, did you want me to take it from here?
Take it, baby.
All right, thanks, Taylor. So again, I'm Chava. I'm with MTA. I'm the MTA's project manager on this work. This is rec park property, but typically transportation is the MTA's bailiwick, and so we've been excited to partner with them. I'm sure you've all been following this in the news. I could even hear from Paula's commentary that's been a topic of conversation. I believe you all talked about this with, I think, my colleague Adrian Leung in the room, maybe a few months back. So we're excited to be here. We put out there for public discussion program proposals, and I'm going to tell you now that we're on like month 6 of hearing feedback. Some of these are very appealing, and some of them are like already dead in the water, but we just wanted to make sure you all knew what we were putting out there. So first of all, for many, nobody knew there was a park shuttle that ran on the weekend when JFK was already closed. And for those who did know about it, they told us it was unuseful and unknowable. Others said, well, can you look at Fulton Street and think about improving loading and parking in blue zones on Fulton Street? There's been a strong desire and discussion about taxi stands within the park. Currently, that's prohibited by park code. In general, there was a request for improved vehicular signage, especially around getting into the garage. I'm sure you've all experienced this, that there's not a lot of wayfinding that gets you as a driver to the garage and tells you how much that garage costs. And then some other sort of micro mobility choices that I know that Adrian was probably speaking with you all about, including bike share, scooter share, bike share stations that are currently not in Golden Gate Park. And some of the kookier ideas included a pedicab service like that serves the Embarcadero. But getting to brass tacks, I think the real dialogue and where people were most interested in engaging with us is about which streets should continue or not to have vehicle restrictions on them. And so I'm sure many of you as neighbors are very familiar with the car-free route as it currently exists. So we split it up into 2 parts. The car-free East End, which is JFK, but then of course, most of you would know that there's many streets that are currently restricted to vehicles also on the West End. And so those are potential recommendations. Of course, it improves our traffic safety outcomes, improves the park experience outcomes. Our emergency vehicles can still use those car-free spaces. I see the fire department out there every time. And it improves some of the 44 service because the 44 doesn't have to compete with traffic at 8th Avenue. Another idea that we put out there on request of a number of stakeholders in the early stages of this project was, there's concerns about loading access to the DeYoung and drop off and pick up. What if you could create some sort of compromise situation? So the idea we put out there for public feedback was this private vehicle access sort of loop where you would come in and then go out on transverse. It would split that roadway in half. Our intention was, on the north side, cars can come in, it'll allow people access the loading dock at the DeYoung, and then cars can exit as they need to. And on that south side, people can continue to have walking and biking space. I want to say I've never had an idea more roundly rejected than this one that we put out to the public. Very quickly, people really went into 1 or 2 camps, the car-free or the no project that we'll talk about, and this had no legs, although I would be interested in the feedback of others. And lastly is no project, revert back to the prior condition, and the prior condition being closed on Sundays, JFK, and then healthy Saturdays, which is sort of about half of JFK, and only during summer months. So it restores it to its prior condition. So these were the ideas we just put out there, and we've heard thousands of people giving us feedback, and so you're just part of this feedback that we're all hearing. And because we're sort of in the later stage, I can already tell you what we've heard, but I'm interested in hearing all of your thoughts. I hope you've seen us out there. We've done pop-ups everywhere. We've attended dozens of community events out in the bandshell, but also like the Autumn Moon Festival, Clement Street Markets, the Outer Sunset Mercantile. I've presented to the Inner Sunset Merchants twice. I think that's why Doug Marshke dropped off. He didn't want to hear me talk any longer. He's heard me, this would be the third time. We really wanted to focus on older adults and people with disabilities who've had the largest set of concerns that we heard in the early stages. Equity priority communities, especially those in the outer neighborhoods who have already a hard time getting to Golden Gate Park. Monolingual communities, we've had a number of events in Cantonese. Park visitors and neighbors, and here you are at the bottom, Golden Gate Park neighbors and neighboring merchant groups. So we're excited to be here today. And so you are, we'll just say you're like 15,000 through 15,016 people that we've gotten to talk to. And I'll just give you the recap of what we've heard thus far. And so what we've heard primarily is that JFK is really becoming a great new destination for families. Some people with disabilities have told us they've really been excited about this addition to the park. It's made it more accessible to them. That is not all people with disabilities. So we'll talk a little bit more about the concerns that we've had. In general, we've had support across the city with varying levels, with the exception of Parkside, so out in Lake Merced. Some of the concerns that we've heard and we're thinking about and trying to create policy recommendations to support. There aren't enough blue zones, and especially they're not close enough to the places people want to go to. Nobody knows about the shuttle, and it stinks even if you do know about it. The transit service to the park from outer neighborhoods is not good, and that people of color don't necessarily feel welcome or feel like the programming meets them in Golden Gate Park. On the mobility side, and I'm sure we'll hear this from this group, the removal of JFK Drive has added to the traffic congestion and the issues of just vehicular access. If you get to the park, you find it hard to understand where you're supposed to be and where parking might be. There was a little bit of feedback just around mobility within the park. So people are seeking like more fun, interpretive ways to enjoy the park. So if you've parked your car, if you've taken the bus, once you're in the park, is there a way to access in fun ways the rest of the park, especially given how big Golden Gate Park is. We talked a little bit about that courtesy campaign, and that really came out of this last point, is that there are other slower moving vehicles and or people, and they don't love speeding cyclists. And lastly, and maybe I'll hear from you all that this public process has been insufficient and that it feels rushed. And so we're listening, and I would be interested in your feedback. That concludes my presentation.
All right. Shall we go back to full screen?
Oh yeah, should I get out of here? How do I get out? Escape? Okay.
Can I just say, while we're talking about this, can you leave the map on the screen?
Absolutely.
Be looking at that.
Yeah, let me pull up the map. Let's use the map of the no project, so that way it's how do I share? Do I have sharing capabilities? Am I still sharing? I am still sharing, right?
You are still sharing.
Yeah,
great. Okay.
I'd like the map of what what's being proposed as opposed to the way it is now.
Okay, well, we have, Paula, I have the east side and the west side split up, but you know what, if you give me a second, I might be able to find a better map in general. How about that?
Thank you.
Let me see what I can find while we're talking. Or, yeah, please go ahead with questions while I look for a decent map, because I would be, I'm listening.
Paula?
No, I just wanted to have the map open. So I know when we talked about it before, it was really hard to read the map that was on the screen. I remember a lot of merchants had questions. How do they get across? We're on the south side. They have a lot of customers on the north side, or they have to pick up some supplies from the north side. How do they cut across the park?
Sure. I mean, I'll be opening up the map in just a second. I'm trying to make sure that I have a decent map for you. I think this should do it. How does this look? Let me blow it up really big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is just all streets in the park. Actually, you know what, that's not a great map. Let me
Why did
find.
you put the map? Albert, do you want to see the east side or the west side?
No, I think I got a winner. I think I've got a winner here.
All right.
I think this is it. I think this is the map you're looking for, Paula. So I heard you say, I have questions about how we access things through the park. And that's certainly a concern. So I'm going to say right now, we have two sort of restricted entrances, and none of these are set in stone. And that's why we're interested in feedback. So one is 8th Avenue. And so Taylor admitted fully that she had been using 8th Avenue to access to go north to south. And that's a pretty common trip that many people made instead of using crossover or Stannion. So that's an east side concern. And something we're really looking hard at is 10th Avenue through the garage. And so there's many trips to Golden Gate Park. Something that people do not know is that the garage has a 15-minute free drop off and pickup within the garage. And so there's a question of, you know, I want to go through the park to get to somewhere else. And there's also a question of, I just want to go to the park and use it. And so we want to start focusing on how can we improve 10th Avenue and make sure that people know a little bit more about how to use that. And then I think another concern that people have definitely raised is chain of lakes congestion and the access to Sunset Boulevard or access from Sunset Boulevard to Chain of Lakes. And so that's something we're looking at as well. So those are the only two restricted like access points. Otherwise, every other access point to Golden Gate Park remains open. So that would include 9th Avenue, 19th Avenue, 25th, 41st. On the east side, it's Fell, Oak, Kezar still fully available, Fulton. So there's very limited restrictions, although I can understand how people who are very accustomed to using them might feel like that those are no longer available to them. Does that answer your question, Paula?
Yeah, but maybe you could put up the maps you showed us before on they're one next to the other, the east side and the west side. And is there questions you can just switch between those two? Because then with those maps, we can see what facilities are there. Thank you.
Yeah, we're still working on our cartography, so common complaint.
Opening the floor to questions. Margaret?
I have a question on behalf of seniors and people with disabilities and the shuttles. How did you envision the shuttles running, and will they be free?
Yes, the shuttle is currently already free, and it is currently running weekend only. And I know that Rec Park is working hard to expand it to weekdays as well and increase service additionally, because and then more broadly, if you did not know that it was already free, communicate and share, especially with older adults and people with disabilities, that the shuttle exists, and marketing and general branding.
It turns out running a public transit system is very complicated. So we haven't been, we have you know, I give us like a C grade in running this shuttle. It's barely functional. So we're also going to add some signage and some placemaking to create actual bus stops. So you'll know where to get on the shuttle. And where you can get off. So lots of improvements coming soon to the shuttle. I think this project has created a lot of opportunity to address some access problems that existed before we even closed this road. And the shuttle is certainly one of those.
Let me pose a question here. Well, Tina, I'll have you after you raise your hand. I've had, you know, gone to birthday parties in some of the meadows and some of the fields out there. And if you've closed the road, I don't know how easy it is to access those meadows. If you're going to be carrying chairs and balloons and picnic gear and barbecue gear and everything else, and then bring it in and bring it out, and perhaps corralling a bunch of wild children as well. So
right.
How is that issue addressed?
It's not affected at all by the road closure. However, if you go to the next, the western side map, you can see that all those roads by the meadows are still open in the same way. All the gray roads are still open. So, you know, just They're all still accessible the same way. It's still difficult, still very difficult to drag your stuff and your kids across the grass, but it's unchanged.
Yeah, I want to clarify this map. Both middle and overlook, I'm sure many of you are familiar. Actually, this map is not quite accurate. Those have been closed for more than 50 years. So it's like a smaller portion now that are slightly restricted. So really on the west side, where as Taylor mentioned, the picnic areas, the grill areas, the bouncy house spaces are predominant, has virtually the same access that it had in the prior condition.
Tina Sen.
Yes, Taylor, quick question.
Hi, Tina.
Hey, good to see you here outside of work. Hey, so I did not know that actually the shuttle bus is run by Park. So where do we get the schedule and the route information?
Yeah, this is a great question, and one I wish we had a better answer. The route is, excuse me, a loop between McLaren Lodge. It turns around in the circle there, and then just gets back on JFK, and then currently it goes to the music concourse, turns there and goes back. So it drops off at the most highly demanded sites. We've experimented with the route, going all the way out to the beach, going down to Transverse. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the route. So, we're not traffic engineers, and we're trying to work with MTA and work within the constraints of contracting this shuttle service to improve the shuttle offerings. And then there would be, maybe even signage throughout the park that showed the route and the stops. That's, what we hope to get to someday. But right now it's really just, you got to see the shuttle and try to get on, and it's crazy. It doesn't work at all.
I have another question regarding traffic circulation. Golden Gate Park is essentially it's a wonderful space, but it's also a 3-mile wide, barrier to crossing north-south, as I'm sure you've heard from many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is how a lot of us that live here mainly get to the Richmond, and the Richmond gets to the Sunset and Parkside. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the big bottlenecks is, Transverse is great, but sometimes that jams up because of all the projects that are happening on 19th Avenue. So that forces a lot of detours to Great Highway, to Stanyon. And Sunset Boulevard doesn't get you through as easily as before either. So has anybody thought of, like a more intense or more elaborate re-landscaping of parts of the park so that maybe cars can still get through, but maybe one can overpass or underpass the other, so pedestrians and bicycles don't necessarily engage vehicles? I know that's a much more expensive proposition, but and I know that I know what I'm proposing here, but as a more long-term thing, somewhere a little bit further in the future, because the city is crowded. And, rush hours are, especially in the park, rush hours in the morning and the evening are really bad. And then in the weekends, it's much harder because there's so many people trying to go out and have a good time, especially on a nice sunny day.
Gosh, I agree with everything you said. These are some of the traffic challenges, definitely that we are well aware of. Nearly everyone has experienced these same things. I know that MTA, and maybe Javi could speak to this, has done larger traffic studies around Sunset. Of course, Upper Great Highway is looped into all this too. And the D4 traffic study. These are issues that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, well, we're definitely looking at traffic circulation, and we're monitoring overall traffic. And you're absolutely right that the weekend the park is a big draw, and it draws a lot of cars. And at peak hour, we still see traffic. You know, I don't think we're going to be looking at re-landscaping roadways in the park at this moment.
I don't know if you've ever been to the Historical Preservation Committee.
But I do want to say that we are, you know, definitely making sure we're keeping our eyes on Fulton and Lincoln. There was a recent, you know, fatal on 46th at Lincoln. We're installing a traffic signal at 41st and Lincoln, and that'll be in a few more years. It takes longer than we'd like to build a traffic signal, but we recognize that there are issues related to traffic circulation in this area. And so we're definitely monitoring and thinking of what are we doing to ensure that everybody is safe on those roads.
I would think towards historical preservation that what we have experienced in the last 2 years with COVID and the new realization of the enjoyment of our outer, you know, our green spaces, that, you know, I think a lot of more people will find it hard to go back to not enjoying the park because now they've discovered it.
Yes.
At the same time, there is also, you know, there's a new, you're repurposing the park. So, you know, it's repurposing it for whatever happens on forward in the 21st century. So I know that there's historical things that I definitely would not like to lose and like to keep in place, but there's also roadways that can be expanded or, you know, modified to create, you know, safe spaces and also beautiful spaces that we haven't done yet. Like there's on that 41st Avenue route that goes to 43rd going across past the Buffalo paddocks. There's a lake on the side that's just sitting in ruin right now that is not doing anybody any good. And I would think that if you could widen that roadway somehow to accommodate or capture that space to use it as a recreational space versus a dry lake, would be much more effective and able to people in the park.
I appreciate your comments. I didn't mean to be glib. I know that separating cars and bikes is pretty much best practice at this point, and we're looking at ways to do that in the roads in this park and the roads in other parks as well, because this is our work now. As you say, this is our new reality, right? There's just more people in their parks, which is the good news, but some of them have roads. And so it's a new realm of work for us. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Anybody else with questions? Could they please raise their hand? I can't see everybody's screen, so if you can raise your hand with the with reactions button on the great, Josephine.
Yes. Thank you, team, for making the very awesome presentation. Get a good idea of how everything goes. I do agree with you guys that, you know, we need more green space and have equitable access to the green space, especially for the families that are dwindling in our city. And I also agree with Albert that we need to look harder on how to optimize all the space. Everyone wants space. You know, like you said, the winning would be coexistence of vehicle and bicycles and walkers, because we are, especially on the west side, 70% of the households are families, and many of them are multi-generational households that rely on a car to go somewhere with their kids and the seniors. So if especially in the park where there is real estate to have to build in all the infrastructures, and we need to invest in it so that we don't have as much conflicts outside of the park. We don't have as many car crashes outside of the park. It's a difficult situation, but I think we need to think about the long term and a harder way to accommodate everyone inside and outside of the park. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the park folks? All right, I will wrap it there. Thank you, Hava, and thank you, Taylor, so much for your presentations.
Thank you.
I look forward to engaging with you guys on more things in the future.
Great.
Thank you.
Many
All
thanks.
right.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Okay. Alma, can I ask you to?
Yeah, how do I stop share? Did that do
There we
it?
go. There you did it.
Thank you. Thank you all again, people of Parkside. It was a pleasure. Have a good one.
Thanks. All right. See you in the park.
You got it.
All right. Now we'll bring on Sloane Morgan. She's from Gig Share or Gig Car Share. She's been waiting patiently for a while now, and she needs another person, right, that wants to spread the word of other potential changes to our wonderful neighborhood. Sloane?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Do you need to co-host as well?
I do have some slides I could show if that's convenient.
Absolutely.
Or if everybody's tired, we could just talk, whatever. I'm easy.
I've given you the ability to drive, so if you want to show some slides, go right ahead.
Okay, great. I've done this a million times, but now I'm forgetting. So hold on one second. I'm going to do it. I'm going to find that green button. And I found it. Great. Great. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, so I'm coming to you as someone from Gig Car Share, and we have that important word share in our name. So we have a car service, and so you get to get in a car and share it. We own the car and take care of the cars, and so it's kind of like the bikes and scooters, and it's a way to support people who don't have cars. So we car-free people or car light people. And we are a business that actually is owned by AAA. And so how many of you here are AAA members? I'm guessing I am. I'm guessing there's a bunch of folks. So AAA has been around for over 100 years. And AAA is looking to provide services for the next 100 years. So we're trying to figure out how can we be helpful to our members. And so we have an innovation lab called, and that's what this center is right here, A3 Ventures. That's where we try out new ideas and new businesses and new products. And the first product launch was Gig Car Share back in 2017. And I joined back in 2017. So I've been doing this since then. And the idea again is to use our cars, which we manage and maintain, to help people who are car free or car light. And it all goes back to sharing, right? So this is sharing is one of the first things we learn. And we think that by sharing, we can really help support a lot of people who live in places that high density housing, or don't want to have a car, they want to save money. So for whatever the reason, we're trying to help these people with our cars. So it's an app experience. So you download the app. And so we take a picture of your driver's license. And then we're able to show you, oh, here's a car. If you need a car, let's say you're going grocery shopping, here's where you could pick up a car, and you could pick it up for like 5 minutes. You could pick it up for 5 hours. You could pick it up for 5 days. And then you return it, and then you basically click off and you end the rental. And so no keys are needed. The car is completely openable by the app. So I'm here to share a little bit about this because we have been growing. And so we are serving San Francisco right now, in the Bernal Heights and in the Richmond. And these are all pilots where we are testing, seeing how people like the product, and it has been really successful. And so we've been talking to Supervisor Marr and his office about doing a pilot. And so that's why I'm coming to you to introduce the service and share a little bit about it, and most importantly, answer questions. And I'm meeting with a bunch of different groups. I saw somebody, I think Margaret Graff, I saw you were on this call. And so I'm coming to meet with your organization and about, I don't know, 6 or 7 other organizations I'm setting up meetings with. So I can't see you, so I'm just going to escape out of this for a quick second so I can see if there's any questions that I can answer right now. So it looks like there's not any questions.
I got a question. I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand in this.
No worries. No worries.
I'm aware that there are car share programs already. Are there other people who do the same thing? Because I have friends in Noe Valley who don't have a car, and when they want to drive, they just pick up this car somewhere that they're signed up with the program. Are you different from that? Is that you? Or how are you different?
Yeah, it could be. That could be us. And then there's also companies like Zipcar that you might have heard of. And so Zipcar is very well known. So what's a little bit different, Zipcar, when you rent the car, you start in one location, you rent it, and you bring it back to that exact location. And what's a little bit different with us is that you could pick up the car in one location, and when you end the trip, you can be in a different location. And so, yay, Grace likes that. So we think this is really innovative because all of the trips that you make in life are not round trips. So it's true that many times one of the top, one of the many use cases for gigs is to go grocery shopping. People love, if you go to Costco, you'll see gig cars in the Costco parking lot. At Trader Joe's in Emeryville, you'll see, that's what people are, using the cars with sometimes, right? They have lots of groceries, they go with a friend, they share the cost of the car. And that's like a really kind of well-known way to, that's when you need a car, right? Because you have a lot of groceries to carry. But not every time, you don't always want to do that. And so we also have a lot of trips that are one-way trips. And so we also are trying to connect you with getting closer to Muni or BART. We're trying to get you closer to where you might have a bike. All of the cars come with bike racks and a lock, so you can put your bike on top of the gig car and lock your bike. So we're really trying to help people make connections between where they're going and how they're getting there. And we think that people, we want to support people who are walking, we want to support people who are part of, Muni and BART, all of the different ways, right? Scooters, bikes, whatever it is. So we're just another little piece in this whole new kind of mobility, like the idea that there's different ways that you get around. So that's what we are. We're trying to support with this sustainable car share business for people who like to share. This is a product where you could share. We take care of all keeping the cars clean and gassed up and fueled. And the price of the car actually includes insurance and fuel. So if you take a gig car and you need more gas, there's a gas credit card in the glove box and you just fuel up and that price is on us. So the price includes fuel, insurance, and then it's just a pay-as-you-go cost. There's no annual fee, there's no subscription fee, there's no membership fee.
Josephine?
So I'll stop there for a second. Yes, Josephine, I see your hands up.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Can you stop the screen share? I think we're in a loop right now. We're looking. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think this is a great idea. I kind of wanted to know the affordability of the rental, and then also wanted to know how many where are you putting the rental spots, right? Is it in gas station, and how many networks, how many those rental spots do you need to create a network?
Yes, those are great questions. So in terms of the cost, we always charge you the least amount. So you could be in a car for 44 cents a minute. Oh, sorry, 49 cents a minute. or $16.99 an hour, or they have hourly rates and sort of special rates. And then generally it's a $99 per day rate. So those are, for people like us who, I have kids, so I have a car right now in my life. That may sound expensive.
Yeah, it does. It sure does.
Exactly. So that's one thing that happens when you have a car. You don't always see all of the costs of everything. And so we're super thoughtful about this because we're really trying to make this as good a product for as many people as possible. And if you look at it on a either per minute, per hour, or per day basis, and you include fuel and insurance, we're very competitive with other options. We know that people have choices out there, so obviously we're really trying to make this something that really works with their lifestyle. So anyway, I know I see the prices, and sometimes I'm always thinking about people who are seeing the prices for the first time. We have cars, and so we kind of forget how much money we're actually putting into our cars. And if you put all that money in together and you divided it on a per hour basis, sometimes people have done that, and that's a learning, for them to sort of see, oh wow, here's really what the cost of owning a car is. It doesn't matter. What we're trying to do is offer this, and we have hundreds of thousands of members, and so it is working for people. Although I know, it does feel expensive when you see that.
That's it.
Hi, Margaret.
Oh, how about my other questions?
Okay, so your other question was about where we're gonna serve. We're gonna try to serve more of the northern part of the Sunset, so just south of the Panhandle. And we are a walk before we run kind of organization, so it's a smaller pilot area. I can actually I'll put up a little map, since I know we just looked at maps a minute ago. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we start in an area where we think that there will be more success. And so we reached out to the SFMTA, who is, the same folks that were just on, and they gave us feedback. And then I also looked at where Zipcar and some of the other mobility providers are, and they're also right now more in a little bit on the northern side, the northern part. So our pilot right now is starting a little further north than when I think of Parkside, I think of it as a little further south. So I will show that map right now, and then I can answer any other questions that you have. There we go. Can you see that map?
Yeah.
So what the blue area means is that you would be able to park the gig car on the streets in that rectangle. We would always all of our members follow all of the parking restrictions. And then if for some reason somebody didn't park properly, because we're owned by AAA, we have an amazing customer service team. And we are able to, if we needed to, we could move a car, or if necessary, we would, tow a car. We have employees making sure that we are monitoring these cars when they're parked, so that they're parked properly. Josephine, did I answer your question?
And how many I was asking about the network. How many parking spots do you need to create this network, right?
Yeah, so we don't have, so we're not like Zipcar, so there's no dedicated parking spots. There's no specific parking spots. So, and we're not going to put cars in this area. When we turn on the pilot, residents who are gig members are going to see it in the phone app, and they're going to see, oh wow, I can park in this area now in the Sunset. And so they would be able to park on the street. We're expecting, I would say on average, about 3 cars in this rectangle area. I would say I'm expecting about 3 cars on average would be in that on a, daily basis. Based on what I know of the Richmond and the Bernal, that's what I'm estimating as a kind of a start of this pilot.
Paula?
Josephine asked a lot of the questions I was going to ask. And so you can park anywhere in that area, and just through the app, you guys will know where we drop the car off.
That's right. You have to park in a legal spot. So you can't park in white, yellow, blue, green. It has to be a legal spot. And then you can see, it's a little hard to see, but if you can see my cursor, we have these areas where there's meter parking. So you're not able to park in that meter parking because we want to keep, they could park very temporarily in the meter parking, but they wouldn't be able to end their trip in that metered parking area. They can only end their trip in a non-metered area in this rectangle. And so I know a lot of you are business folks and merchants, and I don't know if I can't see if someone's laughing or if I said that correctly or not, but
No, I was coughing, sorry.
Okay. So I know, to run a business, you really want people coming to your stores and then leaving, right? So that the spots are open. And so that's a concern. I'm based in Berkeley, and when I reached out to when we were launching here and trying to make sure when we launched in, Seattle and in Sacramento, one of the things I can tell you is that the cars move very quickly. So for example, on Shattuck Avenue or University, right? Those are really, really big thoroughfares here in the East Bay. A car can move as many as 6 times a day, right? So someone gets in the car, they go and do an errand, they run back, spend 3 miles, they park it somewhere else. The cars are really in motion for significantly more than any private car would be in motion. So yes, they follow kind of going back to where we started, they follow the traffic rules. They are parked in this area, and you're going to see the car and then it's going to be gone, or you may never even see it because the cars are in motion so much.
And then 2 quick questions. If you're a member of AAA, you get a discount. And
yes,
you do? What discount do you get?
You get a 10% discount.
Okay. And if your pilot is successful, when do you think you'll be in our neck of the woods, Parkside, on your map?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are probably, we probably would wait probably wait 3 months, 6 months, just, make sure everything's going well. So probably not before that. We could talk to to Supervisor Marr about that and let him know of your interest. And people who, one of the reasons is that we have members who are like telling us about areas to go. So yeah, we will hear from people who, reach out to us in email and on Twitter. So yeah, always listening for where we want to grow next.
Was that all your questions?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, Tina Sand, come out.
Yes, my question, my concern, how many cars you're expecting in the area, as you know, that so many people having issues finding parking space nowadays, and would usually people first say if they're going to take the bus, they want to drive the car to the bus stop, would that be further, making conjunction for people who are, on the regular, like live in the neighborhood? Will all those issues gonna cause a problem to the neighborhood?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we obviously, we're all concerned about parking spots, and we want to make it convenient for everybody. Everybody knows how difficult it is to find parking. So these people who are taking these cars are your neighbors. They are people who are either visiting or live in the neighborhood. And what the mission side, the good side of what we're doing is that we're helping people not buy more cars, right? We're helping people be able to live a life with a shared car. And so one thing that we like to remember is that we're helping in this car share economy, because somebody else, if they didn't have an access to some, like a car share provider, then they may just go buy more cars, and then there would just be more cars. So we're trying to help support people who are trying to have less cars in the neighborhood. But yes, in terms of parking, there's certain neighborhoods that are just very, very busy. And the gig members have to follow all the parking rules, just like everybody else. So I hope I'm answering your question. I recognize, yes, there are parking concerns, and we are trying to be part of the solution by offering folks options so that they don't have to buy more cars.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I've seen, sharing bike shares and scooter shares that are rented by misbehaving app users, tossed about, parked in the middle of, someone's driveway, or thrown on the floor. And I'm just thinking of a car version of that. Of course, in a worst case scenario. I can also imagine, like in some neighborhoods that you might have that program, it might be virtually impossible to find a parking space. And here's this poor guy driving around at $16.99 an hour looking for a parking space. So may not want to spend that kind of money and just leave it somewhere. What's the recourse, or how do you handle those situations?
So we luckily are a wholly owned subsidiary of AAA. So we have excellent member care service. We are never hiding our phone number. Our phone number is immediately available. If there's any problem with the cars, we have the same folks who are part of AAA roadside assistance, 24/7, many languages, ready to take a call. If there's something wrong with the car, we're gonna take care of that right away. Our goal is to be really great neighbors and great partners, not the opposite. So we will work very, very hard. In my job, that's part of my job, is to work really, really hard to make sure it works smoothly. And I'm really proud to say that this program I'm gonna knock wood as I say this, because I'm I'm that kind of person. But the program has worked really, really well in the Richmond since 2018. And it has been working since February of 2021, really, really well in the Bernal. And we're really happy to be able to say that we're helping people who are car free and car light. And we're feeling really confident that it's going to work well in the Sunset as well.
Okay, thank you. Margaret Grant has a question.
Yes. If you have a car that's turning over 6 times in a day, are you actually cleaning it in between each time? I mean, these are COVID times. People get a little concerned about that.
That's right. No, the cars are not getting cleaned every single time between every trip. And we obviously know how safe we all want to be during these times. So when you see people taking gigs, for the most part, they have a mask on and the windows open. And we were, depending on, if the car's moving that quickly, we're watching to see when the cars need to be cleaned. So they're on a routine for our crew to come out and clean them. And so if the car is getting a lot of use, that goes into our determination of how frequently that car needs to get cleaned. So that's kind of part of our calculation. But yes, that's a great question. I think you would probably want to put a mask on and have the windows down. Yes, Grace, we put a lot of hand sanitizer in the car, and it doesn't last in the car for very long. We put bottles, many bottles, and I think the bottles were just too cute, and a lot of, they were just taken immediately. So yeah, we did that at the beginning, and we're not doing that anymore, but we do want you to feel comfortable. So wear a mask, that's what you'll see if you're driving around. A lot of people have masks. Not everyone has masks anymore in the car. So if you want to wear a mask, that's a great idea.
I had a second question. And the second question is, do you have distance or mileage restrictions? In other words, can people take those cars out of the city?
Yeah, oh yeah, they definitely can. When you get a 1-day rental, it comes with 250 miles. So there is a per if you go over 250 miles on that daily rental fee, yes, there's a per mile extra charge. And yes, people go to Las Vegas, people go down to LA, people drive these cars, like it's their car. They're very comfortable in these cars. And so they do whatever things that they need to do in a car with our cars.
Okay. Tina, do you have another question again?
Yeah, actually, I have two questions. First question, it's who can, like, when you go to rent a car, people will check your ID, make sure you have a license properly. So how do you control that? First, that's the safety question. Second, it's what kind of car that you guys will sharing? Would that be electric car? We don't want to have like a 20-year-old car riding out street with all the smokes going on. That's all my two questions.
Yes, those are great questions. So that's one of the benefits is that we have the really newer cars with the good safety features. So it's a Prius car. All the cars are exactly the same. It's the Prius fleet. So 150 of our cars that we have in the Bay Area right now are the brand new 2022 Prius. So they're all of the safety features. The other cars are the 2021 and the 2020. So they're all newer cars getting approximately 50 miles to the gallon. It's a hybrid car, it's not a plug-in hybrid, it's a regular hybrid. Our fleet in Sacramento is an all-electric car, the Bolt with the B, a Bolt. But we don't have an electric fleet in the San Francisco area. And then I think your second question was safety and security. And so yes, the app sign-up process, it looks really easy, but it's all backed with great security in the background. So you take a picture of your driver's license, turn it over, take a picture of the other side of your driver's license. And then you take a picture of your face, and then we match those two pictures. If they don't match, then we'll call you and try to get a better picture or a different picture. But for the most part, the matching occurs and we can have you signed up in 5 minutes and be a gig member in 5 minutes.
All right. Paula, so you have another question?
I do. For short trips, how does this compare against Uber and Lyft? You want to go downtown, you want to drop your car off at West Portal and hop on Muni, or I want to go to Albert's or something, and I don't want to take the bus, whatever. How would it compare price-wise and time-wise with Uber and Lyft?
Well, so you are driving yourself, so you're not paying someone else to drive you. And you still need to park, right? So there's a little plus and minus there. So it depends on where you're going. That's why we have 14 parking lots. And you can pull into any of the 14 parking lots and then just get a gig spot. They're off street. You just pull into the lot, end the trip, get out, you're done with the rental. So it really depends on where you're going and how long you'll be in the car to make that comparison, I think.
And how long it'll take to get to the car, to get a car.
Yeah, so there's a 30-minute reservation period. So when you have the app, you look around and then you say, oh, I want to take that car, and you just click the little button, and then you have 30 minutes to get to the car and start the car and be in the reservation. So you have a little time to walk over there and get it. Let's say you had a bike, you need to get your bike there, put your bike on top. So we give you a little bit of time in order to get there and, be able to get going.
Well, I think it's an interesting idea, and it'll be more interesting after the pilot's concluded and you start spreading out around here.
Yeah, thanks. there's people of all ages are using this product, I'm happy to say. So it's really fun, and I'm really glad to meet the people of Parkside tonight and tell you a little bit about it.
All right. I have Grace here. I want to make Grace the last question.
Okay.
Thanks for introducing this pilot program to us. I'm car light at the moment, so I can kind of appreciate you know what you're saying, having to take lift and all that stuff. But I'm just wondering, they're all Priuses and they all have catalytic converters. How are you guys gonna keep your cars safe from theft and catalytic converter theft?
It's true. We have had some catalytic converter thefts from the cars. We have not installed, I know there's a piece of technology you can solder in, or you can put in. So we have not installed that. You know, I don't really have a good answer for that. We are a startup business, so we are doing our best to keep costs down. And I look at Nextdoor every day, and I see these happening every day. But luckily we have not, I'm knocking wood again. Luckily that hasn't been a terrible problem for us. So we'll just have to monitor it. If it turns out to be in an area with too many thefts or vandalism, then yeah, we may have to not be able to serve that area.
Or put a plate on it.
Right, or put the plate on it.
But they can still cut through those too. They just take a little longer.
Takes a little longer, yeah. I put the plate on we have a pickup truck, so we did do that on our pickup truck. But yeah, it's really a conundrum because it's expensive to put those on.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. So
Great.
am I Captain Vintero? Are you on the call still?
Yes, I'm still on the call.
Oh, hi. I was actually just going to share my email address so that, or if I could take your email address so that I could give you a contact from our fleet ops team in case there's ever a problem with the car. If that would help, we would love to be in direct contact with you.
Absolutely, yeah. If anything were to happen to those cars, that would be my district.
Okay, I'm just putting it in the chat right now. Is that good? Or do you want to put your, or maybe do you want to, Albert, would you be able to share Officer Vintero's contact with me?
Yeah, Officer Ventero, you can just simply type it in and
Okay.
address it to everybody or address it just to Sloane.
Okay, great. So I just put mine in. If there is something, I want to give you the 24/7 number because I'm not 24/7, and we do have a 24/7 team that's dedicated to this purpose. And do you have an email address, or how would I be in touch with you, Captain Vintero?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the email address right now and my number. All
Okay,
right, thank
perfect.
you.
Perfect. All right, well, thanks everybody. Feel free to, my email address is there. Really glad to meet you all tonight, and thanks for letting me join your party, your Zoom party. And I'll see you sometime in person when we're all back in person again.
Okay. Is this program already started in the sunset?
It has not started yet. We're still in the outreach and just kind of checking in with people. So it's sometime in February. Don't have a date yet, but just reaching out to everyone and saying hi and introducing the service for now.
All right. It sounds like a good program.
Well, thank you so much. We're gonna we'll send you some promo codes once we get ourselves launched. We'll send you some promo codes so you can check it out.
All right. Okay. Well, that is the last item on the meeting tonight, and we did run a little bit long, but that's okay. I think it was very interesting. Thank you, Sloane. Thank you, Captain Vintero, for coming to our meeting. It's great to see our new captain, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
In a good way. I hope less on bad things and just more like, hey, let's do a merchant walk, huh?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay, well, I'm going to hold the meeting adjourned, and I will see you all next month. Oh, and just to let you know, before you go, Lunar New Year celebrations at the farmers market this Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes,
Seriously
thank
there.
you, Pops, for sponsoring.
Just be there. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.